This is a podcast by the News Minute, and you are listening to South Central.
Hello and welcome to South Central, a TNM podcast where we put the South at the center. I am Dhanya Rajendran, your host, and joining me in the Bengaluru studio is my co-host and the reporting head of the News Minute, Pooja Prasanna.
Welcome back to Bengaluru. How is Kerala?
Kerala was hot and humid, and I felt sick because of the heat and the humidity. And very glad to be back in Bengaluru.
But you had fun.
Of course.
Met a lot of journalists.
Yes, I was there for the National Conference of the Network of Women in Media. That's an organization that I'm proudly a part of. Around, I think, 150 women journalists from across India had come for the national conference. So it's all about getting to know each other, establishing a thick sisterhood. Okay, so Pooja is again back in the studio wearing a sari because she is short. Let me explain. I think this is becoming quite a regular feature now. Yeah. So before we go to the headlines, I have an important announcement to make. One that I make every year. It's also like telling everybody that I'm getting older because the News Minute has gotten older. We will turn 12 this month.
Yep.
Yay. Yeah.
Did you think you will finish 12, complete 12 years, not finish 12 years?
No. Not even 12. I didn't think of 2. Forget 12. Anyway, we have completed, or we are going to complete 12 years. Thank you very much for reading us, for watching us. And remember that we can go ahead and do all this work only if you support us. So as a birthday gift, take a subscription. If you already have one, then gift a subscription. And on the birthday, as a birthday special, you can ask anything to Pooja. AMA by Pooja. So send your questions to lme@thenewsminute.com and we'll have a special episode of Pooja doing her AMA on Let Me Explain.
Yep. Ask good questions, please. Like something that
if
will
you're
make
going
us
to ask
think.
how do you choose your sari, I can tell you the answer is crowdsourcing. Yeah. So ask better questions. Pooja, headlines.
We'll start with Kerala. Supreme Court slams Deepa Joseph for defaming Rahul Mankuttathil case survivor. Questioning Deepa, Justice Bakshi said, being a lady, what sort of comments have you made about other women? I mean, I appreciate the intention, but irrespective of whether what the gender of the person is, the comments she's made are not okay. Kerala High Court flags audit inconsistencies in Global Ayyappa Summit. The Kerala High Court has sought explanations from the Travancore Devaswam Board over alleged discrepancies in the audit of the Global Ayyappa Sangamam held in Sabrimala, with reports indicating a loss of 3.4 crores. Dhanya.
Okay, Pooja was just making fun before we came to South Central recording that what is this in Kerala, you all have scams of 3.4 crores.
My God, an MLA does bigger scam in Karnataka.
It's good in one way, right?
Of course.
I'm sure there are scams which are unreported in
But you
Kerala,
really
which is
think-
of higher numbers. I mean, done by various people.
I don't know about that, but in Karnataka, it's 3.4 crores. I don't think they'll investigate also.
Yeah, the
anymore.
other day I saw the excise scam. They were saying it's 6,000 crore,
Yeah.
2,500 crore.
At least 4-digit crores. What is this? Kozhikode Sessions Court grants bail to Shimjita in Deepak's death. Shimjita was arrested in connection with the death of Deepak, who died by suicide 3 days after she uploaded a video on social media alleging that he had sexually abused her on a bus. Moving on to Karnataka, BJP slams Congress government for giving cabinet status to 140 people. The opposition BJP has demanded that the government release the total list of people who enjoy cabinet rank status in Karnataka. And that's because, of course, the position carries financial and several other privileges.
So you mean other than the ministers and the chief secretary, the advocate general, etc., there are some 110 people who have a cabinet rank, which means they get security, they get money, and they get better salary?
Yeah. So the thing is, you have 33 ministers, cabinet ministers, including MOS, which are junior ministers. Then there are lots of corporation boards. Now, that is always used as a political tool by the ruling government to appoint people who didn't win election, but they want to reward them.
Or who didn't become minister
Who
also.
didn't become minister. So there has been a cabinet reshuffle in the offing for a while now. Siddaramaiah has gone to Delhi twice asking for it. The High Command doesn't want to do it because then they'll have to address the question of leadership change in Karnataka. So to accommodate people in both the camps, they just left, right and center, made them board chairmen. and
And
chair
given
women's
cabinet rank.
and given cabinet rank. Interestingly, one, apart from all the money and they're also given escort, they also get to have one KS officer, Karnataka Administrative Service Officer, as their PS, and they get 3 PAs as well. So yeah. Karnataka Congress leader brandishes gun at wedding in viral video. Police issue notice. Following the circulation of the video, the police issued a notice to Mateen in his response. This is in Afzalpur in North Karnataka. In his response, he reportedly stated that the object he was holding was a plastic toy gun.
I don't know what is more insulting. Yeah.
Moving on to Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister Stalin dismisses Congress demand for power sharing in Tamil Nadu. He was speaking at the India Today conclave in Chennai. I think they're calling it some sort of round table or something.
I was thinking this is the NDTV conclave. Because last week there was NDTV and so many people have moved here and there. I forgot these are 2 different channels and people have just moved.
Yeah.
So Stalin said that there will be no power sharing. I don't know how the Congress is going to now react because a couple of Congress leaders have been very adamant in their demand that they want power sharing. But eventually, I don't think they have an option but to settle for this unless they suddenly decide to go completely ballistic and go with Vijay. I don't know.
One, I don't think Congress is that adventurous. 2, actually in the same interview, Stalin also said that power sharing doesn't work because it can't be a coalition party government in Tamil Nadu. He also said that the Congress knows it and they're okay with it and our coalition is fine.
Which is what we have reported earlier in our Power Trip newsletter.
Yes,
that the Congress
become a
is
subscriber, read Power Trip every week, Tuesday. Tamil Nadu BJP organizing secretary sent back to RSS Annamalai questions on lack of strategy to fight DMK. Keshava Vinayagam, who was functioning as the organizing secretary of the Tamil Nadu BJP, will now handle Sadbhav, which is social harmony and goodwill. I'm saying this with as less sarcasm as I can.
So Keshav Vinayagam has been the organizing secretary for almost 10 years now and there have been multiple complaints against him. Annamalai has complaints against him. Nainar Nagendran, who's the current BJP chief, has complaints against him. So he's been shunted out. Annamalai, we are hearing, also complained about lack of strategy. In Power Trip, we have written about how other leaders have complaints about Annamalai. So we have given a headline that the RSS is unhappy with the BJP and the BJP is unhappy with itself in Tamil Nadu. Go read it.
Moving on to Telangana. Social media arrest, Supreme Court upholds Telangana High Court's directions, restrains arbitrary FIR and mechanical arrest. The Supreme Court has upheld a Telangana High Court order which mandates prior inquiry and verification of the legitimacy of a complaint instead of mechanically just registering cases concerning political criticism on social media. The court had asked for high threshold for media post or speech-related offences and preliminary inquiry in cognizable offences, which I think is a good thing. This, of course, came after the arrest of a man named Shashidhar Govt for resharing posts critical of the Congress government and Chief Minister A. Revanth Reddy. I think both governments, the previous BRS government also had a very thin skin and arrested people for criticism, and they're just continuing with the grand tradition there. Following GHMC dissolution, government announces 3 new municipal corporations. The Telangana government on Feb 11th reorganized and divided the former municipal corporation into Cyberabad Municipal Corporation, Malkajgiri Municipal Corporation, and now a smaller GHMC. And the division comes a day after the dissolution of former GHMC, which had 150 corporators. It's a good move to decentralize, but I think the manner in which it was done was a little chaotic. I hope things smoothen out with time, but everywhere there has to be more decentralization. Our municipal corporations are too big. We saw something happening in Karnataka too. Moving on to Andhra Pradesh, TDP urges union government to consider age-based regulation of social media. We'd read this headline a while ago. This announcement was made in Davos by Nara Lokesh. Now they've requested the ministry to consider constituting a dedicated committee or expert group to study age-based regulation of social media and recommended a comprehensive national policy based on what happened in Australia.
Yeah, so a case is going on, I think, in the US where Meta and everybody are actually telling the court that it is not true that children are addicted to social media. So let's see what is the outcome of that too.
Tirumala Laddu Rao, ghee made with bathroom cleaner chemicals used, says Chandrababu Naidu. The chief minister was purportedly referring to the chemical LAP used to make household cleaners, while the SIT charge sheet mentions that one of the dairies accused of supplying adulterated ghee had bought LAPSA. It does not specify anywhere that this chemical was used to make ghee.
So first, after saying there were animal fats, and the SIT report sort of debunks that, Pooja has done a Let Me Explain last week. Now they're saying bathroom cleaner chemicals were used. But see, there are chemical results of the ghee. It does not mention any chemical which is there in a bathroom cleaner. But yes, this company bought bathroom cleaners. What did they do with the bathroom cleaners? We don't know.
But just look at how half-truths are so easy now, right? Even by Chief Minister of State. Because he says in the charge sheet, this is mentioned, which is accurate. But the charge sheet does not mention any chemical of that nature in the laddu itself. So technically he's right, but he's still lying. We'll just read one national headline before we move on. Government asks social media platforms to label, take down AI-generated deepfake content in 3 hours. Taking cognizance of the spread of AI-based deepfakes online, the IT Ministry on Tuesday issued revised guidelines for social media intermediaries like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, directing them to clearly label all AI-generated content and ensure that such synthetic material carries embedded identifiers.
You know, whenever government says take down in any 3 hours, 5 hours, etc., never be under the illusion that this is a good thing, because whenever governments give such orders, it is always used against media houses that they have problems with mostly, just like how they have taken down a cartoon by The Wire making fun of Narendra Modi. I'm sure they use the same thing. AI-generated content, remove it.
But I have one question, one doubt rather. Does this apply to their own ministers? Because Giriraj Singh, who's, I don't know what minister he is right now, was walking around Parliament using AI-generated images of Nehru. First of all, why he's still talking about Nehru, I don't know. But 2 of those were AI-generated, so it should apply to them as well.
Okay, so that's it with the headlines. We will move to our discussion today. Joining us are 2 guests, both not from South India this time. M.K. Venu is joining us from New Delhi. He's the founding editor of The Wire. He's been an active economic and political writer. He's worked with The Economic Times, Financial Express, and The Hindu before this. Welcome, M.K. Venu, to South Central.
Yeah, I'm from South India by birth.
I mean, not joining from here. And the man of the week and month, whose story has now led to scuffle in Parliament, scuffle outside Parliament, is Sushant Singh, the consulting editor of the Caravan, a strategic analyst who teaches at the Yale University. Thank you, Sushant, for joining us here at South Central.
This early in the morning.
Thank you. Yeah, it's early in the morning, but thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Dhanya. Thank you, Pooja, for inviting me. And Venu, nice to see you.
I was just saying, Sushant is sitting in the US, freezing cold, and he has created so much heat here in India.
Yeah, so after creating heat in India, you're comfortably in Yale. That could be the next controversy, actually. But yeah, let's go to the memoir, which parts of it which you analyzed in your article on the Caravan of former Army Chief Naravane. Now, we have read the article. Some of the parts of the book are floating around. But the whole controversy now seems to be tilted to, was the book published? Was the book not published? And there's a whole fight going on in Parliament also with the BJP saying that the Congress MLAs tried to plan an attack against the MPs, that the MPs tried to plan an attack on the Prime Minister, etc. So what do you make of the row which has followed the publishing of the memoir?
Yeah, so Dhanya, firstly, it's pretty clear that that this whole controversy, whether the book was published, whether the book was released, whether the PDF is out or the published hard copy is out, whether it was in the bookstores, as the India Today reported, and then withdrawn, I think is a red herring, is a distraction from the real issue. As a journalist, what should matter to us and as to the larger public and to Parliament, what should matter is that a person at a very responsible position in the military, at the time of a national crisis, has said something and has not gone back on those words. It is pretty clear that these are General Naravane's words at various places, in various interviews, and even now. Even the publisher is not denying that these are not his words. It is the content of the book which is what really counts, not whether it was published or not released. Let me give you a counterfactual. For example, let's say the book was banned. Would, as a journalist, would not still be my responsibility to bring out what is in the book? it would still be my responsibility to bring out what is in the book. And what really befuddles me is, are people trying to tell me that an Indian army chief is so stupid or so naive that he doesn't know what the national secrets are or what the operational secrets are? That man has served for more than 4 decades. He was heading your army. Are you trying to tell me that a man, Prime Minister Modi, picked to become the army chief and become an army chief at such a critical time, doesn't know what he's talking about or what he's saying? So this whole idea whether the book is published, not published, is a controversy which is irrelevant and which is not relevant to us, at least as journalists, or in the larger public space, where the questions of political behavior, political accountability, civil-military relations, and what happened during that crisis, or as you had mentioned earlier, during the Agnipath scheme, that happened at that point in time.
Yeah, so I know that you have given a couple of interviews. I saw your interview on The Wire and others where you explained parts of the book, especially your analysis of what happened in August 2020. But for our audiences, your analysis was that the general was just let the government simply ask the general to take the call of what should Indian army be doing vis-a-vis China. And it was Rajnath Singh who told him, "Jo uchit samjho, wo karo."
Let's translate for our viewers.
What is satisfactory?
You do what you think is right, loosely translated.
You do what is right, and then
you do what you deem appropriate. Appropriate, not right. Do what you deem appropriate, do that.
What you deem fit, you do.
Or deem fit, deem appropriate. That's more accurate.
And the general says in the book that it was a hot potato handed over to him, right? So can you just explain that to the audience as to, do you believe that it is this part of the book that could have spooked the government?
It's very hard to say what spooked the government. Maybe, the fact that Prime Minister Modi mentioned that his daughter serves in the army may have spooked. We don't know what spooked the government. Although, just to clarify, it's not his daughter, it's his niece he's talking about. Or, something else may have spooked or maybe Agnipath how Agnipath was imposed upon the 3 service chiefs. All the 3 service chiefs were opposed to Agnipath's scheme. That may have spooked. Something else may have spooked. Some comment about Prime Minister Modi's dress may have spooked this government. What can spook? You know what has happened with the tune that the Wire ran. Anything can spook this government. To believe that they were spooked only by Ladakh or by China border, I really don't know. But to my mind, the fact that the what happened on the China border, and particularly the August episode. So Dhanya, please try and understand, it's just not about soldiers firing some rifles or pistols. We are talking about medium artillery, which is the highest level of weapon available to any army commander. After that, you have to go for rockets or for the Air Force, being fired on incoming Chinese tanks. 4 Chinese tanks are coming to Rechingla, and the army chief and the Northern Army Commander, General Joshi, is asking the army chief, can I open the artillery fire? So because they're only 500 meters away. So please remember that last time Indian Army shot any adversary's tanks was in 1971. You have seen the film Ikkis. Those are the last tank shot, because that is when the war ended, when Khetrapal won the PVC, Paramveer Chakra. China last lost its tanks in a battle in 1979 against Vietnam. So we are talking about a very high degree of escalation, where the army chief is desperately asking the foreign minister, the defense minister, the national security advisor, the chief of defense staff, General Bipin Rawat, what should I do? What are the orders for me? Please tell me orders. He's specifically asking for orders. And what the political leadership then tells him, Mr. Rajnath Singh tells him after speaking to Prime Minister Modi, that jo chit samjho wo karo, do as you deem fit. And what is equally critical is what happens thereafter. So General Naravane is sitting in his study, and then he's looking at the maps and he's thinking about, what is the state of India's economy right now? We are in the middle of a COVID. Can India handle this? Will China and Pakistan come together and collude and cause trouble for us? Will the US support us in this game? Will the Russians be able to provide us this kind of logistic support and supply chain support that we need to execute a war? Now, these are questions which have to be thought through by the political leadership. This is for what Nirmala Sitharaman, Jai Shankar, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and others are paid for, not for giving those fancy interviews and talking nonsense off their hat. This is what the CCS is supposed to do, not the army chief. It is not the army chief's remit to decide what India's economy is. It is not army chief's remit to decide whether Pakistan will come with China. He can have his inputs and decide how to execute war. So my problem fundamentally is that all what should have been thought by the government, what should have been analyzed by the government, by top cabinet ministers and the prime minister, is being left and pushed off to the army chief. And that's why he calls it a hot potato. And that is fundamentally abdication of political responsibility. At the end of the day, the political leadership needs to own a war against China, a decision to open the medium artillery on Chinese tanks, which could lead to serious war with China, has to be owned by the political leadership. There are examples galore. 1971, Indira Gandhi takes responsibility. 62, against China, the war is being debated in parliament as it is being waged. There are 3 or 4 days of debates in 1962. 1999, Kargil. You can read Jaswant Singh's memoirs. You can read Yashwant Sinha's memoirs. You can read the then Air Chief Tipnis's memoirs. You can read Ved Malik's memoirs. Everything is being discussed threadbare in the CCS. Jaswant Singh then comes and briefs the press as to this is what the political leadership has decided. Out here, what you have is the political leadership walking away from not taking responsibility, shirking away from taking responsibility, and passing the buck in a certain sense to the army chief, which he is not competent of taking that call. He doesn't even control the Navy and the Air Force. He doesn't even control the security, the other Home Ministry forces. How can he decide whether India will go to war or not? This has to be decided by the Prime Minister of the country. And that was not done at that point in time.
Yeah, so in the book, actually, the unpublished book, he does talk about all the questions which went through his mind, and then he picks up the call and says that we cannot be the first ones to fire. I was watching another interview that General Naravane gave the A9, the podcast with Smita Prakash, where he does say that, it is for the government to actually think of some of these questions. I mean, in an unrelated question, he's saying that, going to war is a question which the government has to think, because the consequences have to be thought about. I want to ask Venu that, see, it was known around 2 years. I think the general himself was asked the question in a Litfest about what happened to his book. And he says that the book has gone to a defense committee. I also do not know why it has not been published. The opposition seems to have caught on to this properly only now, after an analysis was given, right? That this is why the book itself is a hot potato. So how do you look at the politics which has panned out in the last few days?
See, in so far as politics is concerned, Dhanya, as Sushant said, in 2023, which Naravane put out a tweet, right, which Rahul Gandhi has also quoted, saying that that my book is out, please pre-order, and this was on Amazon. Pre-order and enjoy the book, and many of these things at that time, of course, Agniveer was more in focus because at that time, I guess the government felt that Agniveer was an issue which was spooking them, right? So for some reason, this issue at that time was not top of the mind. So the question is, why is this issue top of the mind now? Now, I'm told that the Amazon India is top of the mind now because of the way the government is behaving. Suppose the government had allowed some discussion in Parliament. The problem with the Modi government is that it gets paranoid on various issues from time to time, and then those issues get amplified. In the media, in civil society, among people, even internationally. This is definitely an international level controversy. So the difference now is that this government is getting out by a whole lot of issues, which also includes Indo-US trade, the highly one-sided trade, which has been described by former bureaucrats who were in the finance ministry as a humiliation, as a total surrender. Now, a whole lot of things are coming together, and this issue also, coincidentally, it happened around the same time, and which has led to this complete clampdown, police FIR, clampdown. Now, I don't understand, like, I'm as puzzled as you are or Sushant as to why they're doing it now, when all these things were known, and why is Penguin suddenly behaving as if the book is not published? When all these things were known, media has covered, a diverse set of media platforms have covered this. And I'm told legally also, I'm told, technical publishing does not mean that physically a book should be out. I'm told a legal definition of publishing is a writer. If a writer managed to convey his ideas to a larger audience through any means, that is deemed as as something that is in the public domain. So the act of printing, publishing, and all is, of course, it's a procedural thing that publishing houses follow, which is what which is what Penguin is trying to say, and not very convincingly. So it surprised me why Naravane is not completely sort of towing the Penguin line. I thought he would at least come out and say, yes, as Sushant says, it's a fact. So even if he says, yes, this is a fact, but the book is not formally, as per Penguin, not published yet. It was well known, it's been covered by the media, and it has come at a time, politically, it has come at a time when the government was getting buffeted by various other issues, and it's a perfect storm has got created. And because the government was greatly worried about so many other things, the way it has done the Indo-US trade deal, etc. Its level of paranoia is really at its peak, and the way Parliament is functioning.
Yeah. So, Venu, couple of things quickly, just to clarify. When PTI ran those very short extracts in 2023, it did not. Those were the only things that were run before the government asked for the book to come to the Defense Ministry, and those were very short extracts. One about very little bit about Agnipath, and this quote about "Jo chit samjho wo karo." But the story that we did now, we brought in a lot more details about firing restrictions, about Galwan, what happened in Galwan, that the Chinese had pitched tents 1 month ago and then came, etc. So this is much bigger, although because Mr. Gandhi, the leader of the opposition, spoke about Jo chit samjho wo karo, so everybody has picked on that. But this is far more revelatory, and lot more details had come in. The second thing which we must understand, Venu, is that this book was given to the Defense Ministry for approval in late 2023, early 2024, and the fact of the matter is that every other book which was given along with it, 35 of them, this is the only book on which a decision has not been taken. The Hindustan Times reported, which I saw it in the wire itself, that the army headquarters gave its comments on the contents of the book. And the army headquarters comments are lying with the Defense Ministry. The Defense Ministry has not yet given a decision on the book. Now, the usual process would be, if you had problem with one part of the book, one passage, 2 paragraphs, 1 chapter, the government would have by now said, okay, remove these 2 paragraphs, remove this 1 chapter or whatever, and they allowed the book to be published. It has not done that. It has not even banned the book. So from our side, it is not legally banned. They've not allowed the book to be published. The content is all out there, and the content has been, and this is what the then army chief has said. So that is essentially where it is, Dhanya.
Yeah, I think the politics is very clear. Reputation management, as it's called, the government is clearly now trying to distract from the contents of the book. Then, like you said, the fact whether it's published or not, or what Rahul Gandhi is saying. I just want to sample one headline from Republic TV. Unadulterated garbage, Arnab dismantles Rahul Gandhi's China claim vis-a-vis Naravane memoir. So clearly the entire reputation management thing is going on, what Rahul Gandhi is saying, how he's taking up things, who's wanting to bite Prime Minister. But let's come back to what is there in the book and why that has possibly spooked the government. Apart from this one statement, what does it say about the Galwan incident? And if you could also add a little bit of context on, you mentioned very briefly the CCS, it's their job, Cabinet Committee on Security. Could you tell our viewers, because we're lay people, how does it work when such a momentous decision is taken? What really goes before that?
So the Cabinet Committee on Security, Pooja, essentially is the committee of the cabinet. So as you know, the Union Cabinet has many committees: Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs, Economic Affairs, etc., etc. The Cabinet Committee on Security is the most important committee of the Union Cabinet, and it is the only committee which can, whatever it decides is seen as a decision to be taken on behalf of the whole cabinet. So let's say if Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs decides something, the decision still has to go to the Union Cabinet and has to be approved by the Union Cabinet. But in case of Cabinet Committee on Security, because it is decisions pertaining to national security, those 4 ministers, the External Affairs Minister, the Home Minister, the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister, they decide everything, with the NSA and whoever else is a special invitee, depending on CDS, Army Chief, whoever is a special invitee, which is there. If you remember these PR videos that the Prime Minister's office releases before Operation Sindoor, where Modi is sitting in his office and talking to these 4-5 people. That is usually the Cabinet Committee on Security meetings which are broadcast. So that is the Cabinet Committee on Security issue. Now, what we are talking about Galwan is, Galwan is many of your viewers might remember, is the incident where 20 Indian soldiers, including Colonel Babu, died on 15th of June 2020, and now a new film by Salman Khan playing Colonel Babu is being released by Bollywood. It was supposed to be released in April, but has been delayed now. Now, what happened in 15 June 2020, we were all told informally, but because government has never given any information formally or officially, was that the Chinese were to be thrown out. They had come and occupied a piece of land in Galwan. They had pitched some tents. Indian went to throw them out. And thereafter the crisis, there was a clash where Chinese soldiers died and 20 Indian soldiers died. And it was done bravely. What journal in Naravane's memoir does is, it very clearly tells us that the Chinese actually pitched the tents a month back in the month of May. That was after a meeting between major generals on both sides. The Chinese said, we are going to pitch the tents here because we can't go back. It is late at night. The Indian major general said, I have left to ask this thing. I have acknowledged your request, did not agree to the request, but the Chinese presumed that he had agreed and pitched two tents at that place. And then when the army headquarters was told about it, General Naravane was told about, he was very, very angry about it, as was the NSA Doval, whom Naravane informed that as to why these tents have been allowed to be pitched. So then he asked the Northern Command and the Ladakh Corps that why don't you ask the Chinese to vacate this area, remove those tents. The Chinese then refused to vacate that area or remove those tents away from this thing. And the Northern Command and the 14 Corps very clearly tell General Naravane that there is no problem with these tents. So please try and think. Contrary to the version that we have been told, General Naravane very clearly says that both the Northern Command and the local corps commander says there is no problem with these Chinese tents. They will get washed away in any case when the water level in the river rises after the snow melts. But this is completely different to what we have been told. The local commanders have no problem with those tents. And on 15th of June, the Indian side is told to go and pitch 2 tents in the same area. When the Indian side goes to pitch those 2 tents, the Chinese attack them, and that is when Colonel Babu, as per General Naravane, goes to pacify them, goes to kind of engage with them. So he's not the part of the party which goes to pitch those tents. He actually goes to negotiate and see what's gone on and how we can resolve it. That is when he dies and all the clash happens. So these are absolutely new facts. They completely change the context of what happened in Galwan. They also raise questions about a part which General Naravane doesn't talk and mention, and which is equally critical. Who passed that order for those tents to be pitched in Galwan by India? Who sent those Indian soldiers on 15 June? If the local commanders had no problem with those Chinese tents being there, who was passing those orders, which led to the death of 20 soldiers? And that thing is completely not mentioned, obfuscated in General Naravane's account. It is put in passive voice, and then these soldiers were told to go, kind of a thing, to go and pitch tents. So this is pretty revelatory, and this completely changes what we know about what happened in Galwan, and raises more questions about who passed those orders, which led to death of our 20 soldiers.
So there's one more spin being given. I think some journalists are saying that this was a free hand that was given. You, of course, did frame the context about how this was a political and economic decision, or those factors were being considered, which is not his job. His job was to only look at the strategic part of it. But do tell us if, Dhanya has read parts of the book. You
can't say that because there will be an FIR.
But you already
I've just seen what has been floating around. Yes.
Okay. Dhanya has read parts of what has been floating around, setting the record straight. You've also alluded to the part in your previous interviews too, that perhaps somewhere they realized that this contradicts the carefully curated image for the Prime Minister, that he's a very hands-on kind of a guy. He gives directions to the army, and this very macho supreme leader sort of an image they've created. Do you think the army chief did not realize what he's putting out, because he seemed to be fond of Prime Minister Modi? He doesn't seem like a dissenter at all.
In fact, the parts I've seen, he's quite friendly with about PM Modi in the entire book, right? So I don't think he would have thought that this would land up in such trouble.
So is this a slip up on his part? Or?
Yeah. So Pooja, a couple of quick questions, because you've raised 3 or 4 questions. One is the free hand thing. So the free hand to the military has to be about how to execute the war, not the decision to go to war. So please try and understand the difference between the two things. What artillery. So I'm not expecting the Prime Minister to tell General Naravane whether you should open 155 artillery or whether you should fire mortars or whether you should fire ATGM or rocket launchers. What we are talking about here is the decision to go to war. It is the decision to go to war that is political. The freedom of action has to be in the way war is to be executed, in the way war has to be fought by the army. That is where the freedom of action has to be there. Now, I'll give you another incident which I cover in the Caravan essay. The fact of the matter is that around the same time in August, the army the Chinese soldiers are coming in human waves and walking towards the Indian places in Rezingla and Rechangla. And because they know that the Indians will not even fire rifles. Now, this is a much lower level weapon. Rifle is a primary weapon. It is the lowest level weapon that you have in the army. And the government, the China study group, is unwilling to give permission to the army to open fire. General Naravane says that there is such a massive debate in the China study group meeting where he clearly says that we have been pilloried for not opening fire while losing 20 soldiers in Galwan. And if we don't open fire again, the country will ask the army questions as to why are you not opening fire when you are losing soldiers or losing land. And the Chinese were very confident that Indians will not open fire. Now, a free hand would mean if the government was willing to give a free hand and Mr. Modi was this bold, dynamic, handsome, brilliant, outstanding prime minister that everybody tells me that he is, then he would have given a free hand at that point in time. Now, what happens instead is massive restrictions are put on them. You will only fire in self-defense. Only you will fire minimum amount. No neighboring detachment or anybody else will fire. Only this detachment will fire. This is not free hand. You are not allowing Indian Army soldiers to even execute local level tactical operations at platoon level or a section level. You are actually trying to control even operation level thing. What free hand? Free hand has to, and the idea of free hand has to be about the decision to go to war, not about how to execute war. So to my mind, this is a complete, this makes no sense at all. This is just as we said, as you said, and as I have repeated earlier, this is an idea which is born out of this great desire to protect the image, which has been very carefully cultivated using OTTs, using films, using our Godi media that we have so much of, which is this whole very carefully crafted, curated image of being a very decisive and a bold and a macho leader is being destroyed by these facts. And as Dhanya said, this is about the facts. The facts are there. What we are reading is why it is an essay and why we did not run the extract. So Hartosh and I had a long discussion over this. Should we just be running extracts of the book? But then the reader would have made no sense of it. What it needed was an examination of the facts and new facts which have come to light. And how do you put them in context of what is going on? The General Naravane, except for one passage where he says that his last CCS meeting, which probably refers to the Agnipath meeting with the Prime Minister, was very stormy. Everywhere else, he's very kind to Prime Minister. He praises the Prime Minister for switching off the lights every time a meeting gets over in his office. He praises the Prime Minister for asking about Mrs. Naravane when he meets him, which are like, I don't think that really counts as if you're an army chief. What really counts is what happened at the crunch time when the adversary was there and when you needed to decide whether to go to war or not. And I think at that point, on those issues, the facts that General Naravane brings out do not agree with the kind of portrayal of the Prime Minister that we have been told in popular media and popular culture.
Okay, so we keep losing MK Venu's connection. So in case he disappears again, I want to quickly ask him about what's been happening with the Wire's cartoon. There's a cartoon which the Wire put out, which was critical of Narendra Modi, a satire. And then it was first removed from Instagram. Your Instagram handle was blocked. Then it went from X and other handles. So the notice that the Wire got, did it say that the IT Act is being used, Sahyog portal is being used? Did it not say anything? Was it just taken off? Was an explanation asked from Wire?
Dhanya, there was no intimation from the authorities, and we have experienced this before also. I think on another occasion, if you recall, the whole Wire website was gone when we reported the Rafale. Basically, we reported what the CNN had news that they had put out that a Rafale had been brought down during Operation Sindoor. So then even now, it was totally arbitrary. The government used its power, I feel illegitimately because before taking down any sort of news or any video from any platform, they are supposed to give you notice. That's what the procedures say. Whether it's the IT Act, amended IT Act, or even the IT Act, unamended IT Act, under which they are using these powers. But in this case, there was no notice. And first, our Instagram was blocked. And then we went into a panic. Our editor, Siva Chishti, called all of us, and we had a kind of session, and we thought that we'll ask the MIT Ministry of Information Broadcasting. And then we learned that there was, because of the police FIR, verbally we were told around the Naravane issue that they were kind of blocking content across different platforms. And at that time, the YouTube was not being blocked, or Twitter. So that's the question I asked in our informally, but Twitter is not blocked. Maybe we can put it on YouTube, same cartoon. But I think subsequently it became, the net was cast much wider, and other news organizations also experienced the same.
Okay, just when MK Venu was about to finish, we lost his frame again. So I'll jump back to Sushant now. This is a chaotic South Central. I think the second that is happening. Anyways, what I want to ask you is that it is the aftermath of that story where you analyzed what General Naravane wrote, that what we saw in the parliament, then Wire makes a satire on it. And it is not just the Wire, like what Venu was saying, many other links are being taken down because they do not want any satire on the Prime Minister in relation to the issue itself, right? How do you see the clampdown on the media after that? But the Caravan article has not been taken down. I remember the Caravan faced such an action, I think last year, when one of your articles on Kashmir and the army was taken down and the website itself went off for some time.
That was the year before last when we did a story on torture and killing of Muslim men in Jammu and Kashmir in army custody. And that story, which had been done by Jatinder Kaur Tur, was deeply reported. She had traveled there, she had met everyone, she had spoken to the security forces, she had spoken to the cops, etc. And they forced us to they've actually blacked out the story by taking that link down. But the story continues to remain available on the magazine in any case, and everywhere abroad. That was in 2024. This time, we have at least we have not got any message, and we are not the only one. There must be 500 other stories that are being done, from my former newspaper Indian Express to Hindustan Times page one story, Times of India, Hindu. Everyone has done story now on this. So it is, and in any case, the PTI did the stories in 2023, December 2023, couple of stories, and those stories continue to remain available. Those stories were never taken down. I don't think it has to do with the story as such, because this is a valid journalistic exercise of bringing out the truth to the public. And this is so there is nothing wrong in it. What they've gone after is the tone, where I think particularly because the tone pertains to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and I think this government is extremely thin-skinned when it comes to the Prime Minister, because they seem to believe that he's the only trump card they have. They can't be going and asking votes in the name of Sitaraman or Jaishankar or even Amit Shah. So probably that's why they're trying to. This is about protecting Narendra Modi's image. That's why probably they've gone after it. I'm sure if instead of Narendra Modi, it was Rajnath Singh who was being mocked, or it was Nabeen Nanin, whatever that guy's name is, the so-called party president. If he was being mocked, nobody would have cared in the government, because they have only one trump card, and even that trump card is so weak now. He got only 240 seats last time. They need to protect him, so that's why he runs away from parliament. He runs away from facing the parliament. He runs away from facing any question, because his image is so valuable to the whole Hindutva establishment and to the ruling party that it needs to be protected. So it is not about the story that the Caravan did or what PTI had run or the book. I think it's more about, as Pooja said, about image management, about perception management.
Yeah, actually, last year, 2025, also there was a similar thing that happened with Anand Vikatin, where they had a cartoon. Vikatin, yeah, sorry. Where they had a cartoon showing Prime Minister Modi in handcuffs in front of Trump, and that was taken down. So that's where they're extra sensitive about.
And Vikatin had to go to court. Vikatin is a 100-year-old media, and they had to go to court to get reinstated. And this week itself, we have seen a lot of action. It's not just against the wire. The CPIM's mouthpiece, Deshabhimani, their Instagram post has been disabled, not even suspended, and they've just been told community standards violation. But what the Deshabhimani editor told us is that on the day of the budget, they had put a lot of slides critical of the government, and the next day the account was disabled. Another Malayalam portal called No Cap, their Instagram page also was disabled. So the government has been, in a hurry this week to pull down stories or really freeze Instagram accounts. But I also want to touch upon this criticism, right? That should army chiefs or Air Force, whatever, any defense chiefs or people who knew what has been going on in the establishment, should they be writing these memoirs at all? I mean, it's a rhetorical question because we have not seen too many of such memoirs in India. We had General V.K. Singh, who later, of course, became a BJP minister. His book was released just a year before the election in 2013, before the BJP came to power. He was very critical of the Manmohan Singh governments. That book was allowed to be released. But we also had in the past where a book called Himalayan Blunder was banned by the Indira Gandhi government. So we've had instances where books have come out or they've been banned. But do you believe that as an exercise itself, these books are okay to be written? Because end of the day, these are decisions taken at the spur of a moment, or there are, and it's a recalling, right? It's basically General Naravane recalling something that happened. He could even be wrong in the recalling. So do you believe it's okay to write these books?
Oh, yes, definitely. But firstly, I'll go to do the first comment which you had about the banning of these sites, etc. I think a lot of it is being done through the Sahyog portal, which was challenged in the Karnataka High Court, if I'm not wrong. And I think Sahyog portal is what is being used to pull, where there is very limited accountability of the government. That's my sense from what has been going on in recent days. And I think that Sahyog portal thing itself, as we saw with the challenge in the court, is pretty crazy. It doesn't allow any kind of accountability or hearing or any kind of sense of fair play or justice to those who have posted. It is almost a one-sided, draconian kind of law, that kind of act that is being imposed through the Sahyog portal. As far as the idea of people writing books is concerned, I don't think Himalayan Blunder is banned in India. Himalayan Blunder was not banned in India. During the 1962 war, everybody wrote books. The whole war was being debated in Parliament as it was being fought. Please remember, there was a 3-day debate where every single question was being answered as the war was being fought. And one of the people who had asked for that debate to take place was Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was the first-time Rajya Sabha MP at that point in time. And Nehru personally was answering all the questions there. So this is not that it has not happened. On the Kargil war, there were major discussions, major debates. All the memoirs have come out. In fact, there was a Kargil review committee which was formed under K. Subramaniam, Jaishankar's father, who actually released the full report, barring some parts which had been redacted, which contained some secrets. And that book and that was released immediately after the Kargil war. So this idea that somehow the military decision should not be informed to the public, or what the political leadership did should not be told to the public, is completely incorrect and goes against what India has seen. India has a great tradition of military chiefs, of everyone writing books, talking about operations in great detail, and that has been the practice. And it is done for two reasons. One is, you want to inform the public. The public should be well informed about what is going on, and there can be counter views. There can be other points other people can recall from their perspective as to how it happened. I'm sure General Joshi can recall. He wrote his memoirs where he skipped about this portion about Ladakh, saying, "Oh, because the operation is still undergoing, so I'm not going to talk about it." Others can write about it and do it. So people should be informed. The second thing, which is equally important and critical, is that this is the only way, if you discuss and debate these things and particularly put them in the harsh spotlight, that you can learn the right lessons and you make sure that these mistakes are not repeated again. This is the only way to learn this. And as far as whether this version is right or wrong, that is not the point here. The government has something called the official histories of the war. Government doesn't declassify them. The history of the Kargil war, government has not declassified. It was written by Srinath Raghavan, I think in 2015 or 2016 or somewhere around that. It has not been declassified. The official history of the 1971 war has been declassified. Official history of 1948 Kashmir war has been declassified. Official history of 1962 was not declassified, but is available publicly because somebody leaked it from the defense ministry. So the government has a way of telling its official version, its side of the story. The current government has not done even a single official briefing on the whole Eastern Ladakh crisis. The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defense has not discussed this. When Galwan happened, if you would remember correctly, Rahul Gandhi was a member of that committee. They were discussing the color of the uniform. When he was asking, why are we not discussing Galwan if this is the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defense? Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs has not discussed this. There's been no debate in Parliament. All the questions were not allowed in Parliament. So the government has enough forums, enough ways of putting its point of view across formally, officially, and letting us know if General Naravane has done anything wrong. If General Naravane is telling a lie, then the Prime Minister or the Defense Minister should come out and say that General Naravane is telling a lie. He should be charged with this thing. And please, let's presume that somebody who's becoming an army chief knows what he's talking. He clearly knows what the operational secrets are and what cannot be told. And if operational secrets are such a big issue, then why are books being written by former generals on Operation Sindoor and being released? Or why are and with access being given to fighter pilots, to officers who have fought in Operation Sindoor, which is barely 7 to 8 months old? If this is an issue that they should not be discussed. I don't know, Dhanya, how many military podcasts, etc. you follow. There are podcasts where serving military officers who served in Operation Sindoor are being allowed to go and talk about those operations. So the only conclusion that we can draw in this case is you are free to talk about anything operational, anything military, as long as you are towing the government line and acting as a PR agent and propagandist of the government. The moment you raise tough questions, the moment you examine what they are saying, the moment you say, why don't you answer this? Questions of political accountability, questions of performance, questions of what did you do, what is your duty, what is your responsibility. Only at that point in time, you will selectively use the operational secrecy card, national security is a holy cow, let's not talk about it. Every other time, it's perfectly fine. The Prime Minister himself goes and gives speeches. He gave speeches in 2019 saying that we have not kept our nuclear bombs for Diwali. This was in Pokhran. Another speech where he gave is, if I remember correctly, in Maharashtra around the same time, where he said that it would have been a Qatal ki Raat. It would have been a night of massacre with Pakistan. So the military is not off limits politically. Military is not off limits for podcasts, for media, for media platforms, for retired military officers, as long as you toe the government line and you only keep on saying what the government wants you to project. So that's the way I look at it.
So just to zoom out a bit, a few years ago, there was a woman who had come to us in a previous place I was working. She had accused her husband and her friends and his colleagues at the Navy of what she called wife swapping, but basically sexual assault. And we were not allowed to air that interview. This was, of course, self-censorship. And the reasons given was you're exposing our defense forces to, any kind of attack. If you talk about this is a woman who is speaking about her own lived experience. The point I'm trying to make is, like you said, as long as it's hagiography, it's allowed. If you're glorifying one particular narrative, it's allowed. But does the media also, because there's no clarity on what will be taken offense to, somehow self-censored itself as far as the armed forces is concerned? And we've just not scrutinized it enough, not just strategic decisions, but just the general functioning of our armed forces too.
I'll give you one example, Pooja, you would remember well, then you would remember the Abu Ghraib prison torture in Iraq. The Abu Ghraib prison torture was brought out by whom? By the media. And this implicated the US military in a horrible, horrible manner. You can actually, Hollywood made films on torture. The Mauritanian, if any one of you have not seen it, can actually shows, Hollywood actually shows how torture is being done in the Mauritanian. It's a very famous film. It came during the pandemic. I think it would be available on Prime or Netflix or somewhere. So the idea that the media cannot interrogate what is being done wrongly or what is wrong within the organization is completely incorrect. It doesn't affect the morale or the motivation of the soldiers. The morale of the soldiers does not depend on some kind of hagiographic coverage. The morale of the soldiers depends on training, on leadership, on equipment, on clear directions, on professionalism. And that is something where I'm sure the Indian military has the ability to handle that. As far as India's case is concerned, the example that you guys gave, that Dhanya gave recently of what the torture and killing in Poonch in Kashmir, the story that we did, which later on the online it was taken off, was never picked up by Indian publications. They were so scared of picking up the story, which very clearly had so many details about it. We did a follow-up, Dhanya, I don't know if you remember this. We did a follow-up where we had WhatsApp conversations shared by a very senior military officer, which showed that one lieutenant general and one major general were present when these people were being tortured and killed. This was again done by Jatinder Kaur Tur. No, the story just died it sank without a trace. Nobody ever spoke about that story because which clearly showed, there were evidence, there were court documents, there were Armed Forces Tribunal documents, which showed that the 3-star general and the 2-star general were present and passing orders when these guys were being tortured and killed. So that is the level of, shield and the coverage that the wrongdoings of the armed forces are even provided. We should not protect the wrongdoings of our soldiers or the armed forces. What we should justifiably talk about is if they do well, if they do the right thing. And this, because of this very hyper-nationalist environment that we are in, that is why it is happening. When everything is linked to soldiers are defending us on Siachen, and you are sitting here in an air-conditioned studio in Bangalore and talking. If that kind of argument is made, it is pretty ridiculous. And I find it pretty offensive because one of the things is a lot of people are unable to criticize me because I donned the uniform for 20 years, served in various operational areas. So a lot of people are hesitant to criticize me. But this is ridiculous. It should not be dependent on whether I served in the military or not. What I say should matter is based on whether it is factual, whether it is correct, whether it can be proven or not on the fact whether I was in the army or not.
So 2 things. One, actually my podcast recommendation last week was the New Yorker series on the Hardita massacre. They did an investigation for 3 to 4 years on what happened. And I re-listened some parts. They interviewed 150 US Marines who were there. They traveled all across the US, interviewed 150 people, of which 36, if I remember correct, spoke to them. That's the kind of effort that one magazine took to just expose how the US Marines just killed some 30, 40 people in Iraq. But imagine ever doing that kind of story in India. Now, I think one of the major differences between the Poonch story and what is happening now with General Naravane is that even the opposition will not take up stories where you criticize the army or the functioning of the defense forces. They picked up this story because here we are criticizing the political functioning of the government, right? The government did not take a decision or the government was lying to us. So that becomes convenient for even the opposition. I think the army, we have a colleague who I once tweeted to somebody as a reply about let's also question the army's what the army does in Kashmir. He faced a sedition case. So that is how ridiculous things are, that even for asking let's just talk about this, people have faced sedition cases. Because we're done with the whole army story, but I just want to touch upon one more thing which has happened yesterday, which is investigative journalist Ravi Nair has been convicted completely different from what we have been talking till now, but it is about freedom of expression. Ravi Nair is an investigative journalist who's been looking at monopoly, at corporate misconduct, etc. He has been convicted by a court in Gujarat. Now, I did go through the judgment. I went through all the tweets. The judgment is for 17 tweets. Of the 17 tweets, 14 tweets were newspaper, website articles, which he quote-tweeted with his own comment about Adani, Ambani, Narendra Modi, etc. So the court says, now this is a criminal defamation case under section 499. The court gives him 1 year imprisonment and says that you have freedom of expression, but you do have limitations, and this does amount to defamation. I think that's another threat looming, right? A corporate is going to the court and everybody's like, very good, let him go to jail. They don't understand that there is a remedy of civil defamation. A corporate can file a civil suit, but they have chosen to file a criminal defamation and for having an opinion. And, I've gone through all the tweets. He's basically asking questions. Is this a monopoly? Is a monopoly going to be created? Why is this person, for example, who has defrauded banks of a man called Jatin Mehta, he defrauded banks of many crores, but he's not been brought back to India. Is it because he's Adani's daughter's father-in-law? So these are questions that he poses through his tweets. And he has been given 1 year of jail for that. And people are celebrating it. Even the Sahyog portal point that you took, right? Now, it was DigiPub, of which we are all part of. DigiPub is the one which went to court along with Elon Musk, surprisingly, in the Karnataka High Court, saying that the portal should not function. Now, for everybody thinking that, oh, Sahyog portal is the best place where the police or any department of the government can just go launch a complaint, remember, it is not just the union government, which is the BJP now. Every state government is filing. Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, all these states have taken down tweets of opposition leaders, of any person in the opposition, of anything critical. So every government is now using the Sahyog portal. It is not just the BJP. You have any thoughts on this Ravi Nair's conviction?
Oh, definitely. Firstly, these names Sahyog, I don't know if you understand, it means cooperation. Like, this is Orwellian in its peak. It's cooperation almost by keeping a gun to your head. On the Ravi Nair case, I think we know this, that the idea of criminal defamation is completely wrong. I think it has been challenged in the court, I think by Prashant Bhushan, Rahul Gandhi and others in the Supreme Court. And as is the want with the Supreme Court, it has not decided the case. It should have decided the case and made it amply clear that that criminal defamation cannot be on the statute, cannot be on the books. This is, this case and this judgment is meant to have a chilling effect. And we have seen this happen even with the, what was that, Mr. Ambani's Vantara Zoo case, where a Supreme Court made a committee and immediately everybody was told to take down all the stories about Vantara. Vantara, if those of your viewers who don't know, is the place where Lionel Messi went and prayed and did the Aarti. And while some animals watched what he was doing, but more seriously, this is very risky. This is very dangerous, and this is undemocratic. This is anti-freedom of speech. This is against the kind of ideas which can keep India healthy, safe, and secure and democratic. And this particularly hurts the people. See, once journalism dies, once journalism cannot do critical stories, the people will know nothing. That's how things collapse. If the people are informed by journalists, and especially by journalists who are willing to speak truth to power, who can be critical of what is going on. And power in this case not only just means those who are in government, it also means those who wield power in films, those who wield power in sports, those who wield power in business, those who wield power even in opposition parties, those who wield power in courts, those who wield power in various bureaucracy. Everybody who can wield power in his or her way should be held to account and should be questioned. And once you allow those who are in power, those who are powerful, those who have wealth, those who have authority to be able to file these kind of cases and shut you down, the people will suffer. India will suffer. Indians will suffer. And that is and I think the aim of filing these kind of cases and this kind of order is to create a chilling effect where somebody like Dhanya has to think that, I have whatever 25, 30 people in my office right now. Can I really afford to do this story which will bring the threat of shutting us down or putting me behind bars? What will happen to my son, or what will happen to my spouse? And those kind of questions automatically start coming to people's mind. Now, Dhanya may be very brave, and you may decide to go and do it, but there may be a lot of other people, maybe in BJP ruled states, who may be thinking, no, we should not do. I don't want to go down that path. And eventually, you create you force a consensus on the people. You force a kind of a consensus where everybody only gets one side of the story, one version of the story, where those in power cannot be questioned. So it's a very, very dangerous order, and it is something which should be challenged in the High Court. It is something which should be challenged in the Supreme Court and should be thrown out. And the fact that the idea of criminal defamation should itself be thrown off the statute books. That's the least we should be expecting in 2026.
So just one correction, Subramaniam Swamy actually went to court first against criminal defamation. Arvind Kejriwal, Rahul Gandhi, etc. joined in, and the Supreme Court upheld criminal defamation. It said that it is needed constitutionally to protect freedom of speech, privacy, reputation, etc. And one more thing I want to point out in this Ravi Nair judgment is that the judge also notes that Ravi Nair has tweeted multiple times between 2020 and 2021 on Adani itself. Therefore, there is a pattern. I think that is really problematic, right? Like, for example, if somebody takes my Twitter, I'll be tweeting a lot on a particular case, let's say in Kerala or in Tamil Nadu. Or if you take Sushant's, it will be about the army, about the defense forces. Some 2 years later, you take all the 15 tweets and say that, that is our beat, right? That is what we cover. So we obviously write.
But what is
the
problem if there is a pattern?
So that the judge says, is reason to show that this is a deliberate attempt to harm the reputation of Adani Enterprises. But that's problematic. It is his beat. He largely reports on corporates and Adani especially. Yeah.
And I may not report on it. No, and it is my social media page. I may be interested. Are you going to tomorrow say, okay, why am I talking about Shah Rukh Khan or about Virat Kohli? Those who are Virat Kohli fans and tweet 1,000 tweets about Virat Kohli, are you going to charge them for saying, why are you obsessed with Virat Kohli and you are digitally whatever obsessed or stalking it? It is my desire, what I want to follow, what I want to comment on social media about. It has nothing to do with with anything else, and certainly not the idea of criminal defamation cannot be based on what we tweet about. Somebody might be younger, might be tweeting only about football. This is ridiculous. Actually, there's no other word for it.
Yeah, in fact, like 2 criminal defamation cases that one we had and one we still have, are also by corporates. Let's not give idea to politicians, but by corporates, we have criminal defamation. Okay, so I think we'll end that. Unfortunately, our second guest had very bad connection. Pooja had this brainwave that this must be because of the pollution in Delhi, that his phone is also not, and laptop is also not working anymore. Yeah, so we have to quickly do recommendations. Pooja, what is your recommendation for the week?
Okay, so our colleague Sukanya yesterday reminded me that there is a new book from Kavita Kane. I've recommended her books in the past. She rewrites mythology from the perspective of women. This is her latest book from 2025. I picked it up this morning, Bhima's Wife. The writing is okay, it's not great, but I like the perspectives that she brings. The second recommendation is a podcast I listened to, How Jeff Bezos Broke the Washington Post. This is on Radio Atlantic. What I liked is a lot of people kept talking about how you can't possibly think that Jeff Bezos is a bad businessman. He let Washington Post die. But this spoke about how his decision that he imposed on the editorial to not endorse a candidate, last year when they wanted to endorse Kamala Harris, directly led to at least 250,000 people cancelling their subscription. And that's where their revenue dived completely. So, and then he went ahead and sacked the editorial, across the world. So it kind of brings it to how it all is a deliberate attempt, though they make it seem like a revenue model, but it's actually deliberate. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I will a couple of recommendations. One is this book which I've just finished reading. It is Zubok on the it's Vladislav Zubok on the world of the Cold War, 1945 to 1991. So Zubok grew up in the Soviet Union. So, and he was already an academic and a policy analyst working in the Soviet Union in the 1980s. And then, of course, comes to the West. So has a sense of how the Cold War plays out. This is a history of the Cold War from the perspective of both the Soviet Union and the West. And I've read many such histories. I've read Arne Westad, that monumental book, which is supposed to be a classic, who's my colleague here, Arne Westad at Yale. But this, to my mind, is the first time I'm seeing so much of material being examined, even from the Soviet point of view, what happened in Moscow at that point in time. It's a great book, and Zubok brings that sense by virtually being there and knowing what was happening in Brezhnev's time or Gorbachev's time. Now, it's a great history of the Cold War. For anybody who's interested in slightly serious stuff, this is wonderful. My second recommendation is, of course, the film Ikkis, which I believe is maybe I don't know what platform it is now on. It is about Arun Khetrapal, directed by Sriram Raghavan, about Arun Khetrapal, who died in the 71 war, got a Paramveer Chakra when he lost his life there. And his father then 30 years later goes to Pakistan and is hosted by the same man who had shot whose tank had shot Arun Khetrapal's tank, which led to Arun Khetrapal's death. The film is nicely done. It is not exaggerated. It is not full of hyperbole. And the idea of the context of partition of India, Pakistan, of brotherhood, of military as a service, while without being jingoistic or over the top, is well captured by Sriram Raghavan. I wrote about it and also in the Caravan, giving a lot of details about how Indians and Pakistanis fought as professionals and not as enemies or not as mortal killers at that point in time. And I thought that film was very nicely done. And then, if you will indulge me, because I did mention the Mauritanian, I think, I don't remember the platform on which it is there, but definitely would recommend Mauritanian. It's a real life story of someone who's picked up after 2001 and tortured and released after a woman lawyer really fights his case in the US very strongly, released much later after almost 20 years. It's a real life story. It has been made into a film, into a Hollywood film, very beautifully made, very nicely acted, very bold, very clear, talking about everything that, as you said, we don't talk about in India.
So my recommendation is the Caravan article. An army chief's unpublished memoir exposes how the Modi government spun the China border crisis. And as a Caravan subscriber for many years, let me tell you, take it once. They will give you a lot of discounts in the years later. So do take the subscription and read the entire article. My other recommendation is Shiv Narayan Purohit's investigation on newslaundry about this place in Gujarat called Somnath, where there was an attempt made to delete 15,000 Muslim voters. Unlike in many other previous investigations, this one is different because Shivnath has figured out that the Form 7, which is generally given to delete a voter, it was pre-filled using a computer and only the signatures were put by people on the ground. He's also found 6 to 7 people have filed affidavits saying their signatures were fraudulently used. So imagine my signature is used to get deleted some 1,000 voters and I have no clue about it. Same thing happened Aland in Karnataka. Yeah. So read that. My third recommendation, I finally watched a light movie. It's called Sarvam Maya in Malayalam.
Oh, nice.
And it's on some OTT platform now. It's Nivin Pauly's movie. So all Nivin Pauly fans can watch it, but do watch it for the young woman who acts in that movie. That's all right. So thank you very much. And like I said, News Minute is going to turn 12 years. We are becoming older and older.
Who is we?
Me.
Yeah.
So take a subscription, say happy birthday to TNM and write to lme@thenewsminute.com because Pooja is going to do and ask me anything or AMA. Thank you very much for joining us on South Central.
Thank you so much, Dhanya, and congratulations on turning 12. And like fine wine, you are all maturing. It's not about growing old. It's about maturing like fine wine.
I don't think you made Pooja any happier by saying she's maturing like fine wine, but sure.
I'm going to pick parts of that compliment and just take how I want.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you to my producer, Bhuvan. Thank you to production assistant, Ajay, editor, Jasim Ali, Sukanya Shaji, who writes everything for South Central, and Yana, who does our socials. Keep watching, keep listening next week.